If you're going to do any work on your vehicle's air conditioning compressor, you're probably going to need even a minor tool set to get it done. And that's because most of the time you have to pull the clutch off the front to access the shaft seal or even pull the compressor apart. And if you're looking online at buying one of those kits, they usually come in a box like this for, you know, the main GM R4, A6, and some of the Sandon compressors and so forth. And I've had a little bit of experience with buying these kits, so I figured people might want to know, what's the long-term experience with one of these kits? Are they any good? Do they actually work? More importantly, do they last? And is it something that I should keep in my toolbox? Is it even worth buying? Let's find out. So for example, this is an R4 compressor made by Harrison. This is on a 1988 Chevy Suburban. Some of the older A6 compressors basically have the same thing. It's a threaded internal thread on the clutch, and basically you put a puller in there and pull it off. And the main way you do that is you can get the official tool, which is horribly expensive, or you can buy one of these cheap sets online from, you know, Fleabay or that Jungle website, something like that. And it basically looks like this, except not all worn and blown out like this kit is. I've had this kit a couple years, and I'll tell you my experience with it, but I just had to buy a new replacement one. This one is made by ABN. I know nothing about them. It's basically the same kit, made in China. Probably the same level of cheapness and everything. Case is slightly different. We're going to open it up and take a look. It says on the front what it's for. GM R4, A6, you know, various other few compressors. And it says a sander compressor, which I'm sure they mean Sandon, because those are Sandon compressor numbers there. So you can tell by the quality of the spelling that, you know, they absolutely know what they're doing. But this won't pull just one type of clutch. This will pull a couple different types. The main ones I use it for, since I have a lot of GM products, are the Harrison and Frigidaire compressors with the threaded front nose, and it just presses it right off the shaft by running the screw down through the middle. I'm sure if you're looking at getting one of these kits, you'll be familiar, but basically this threads into the front of the compressor, and this threads in, and then as you hold this and tighten this, it basically presses against the shaft on the nose of the compressor and pulls the clutch off. Now, of course, there's the other ones that are included for the other compressor types. You know, you can pull it off this way, and you know, if it has the 3 screw holes, and you can press it off that way by running this in, kind of like a standard puller would, and so on and so forth. And then you've got this style here for the various different types of compressors this kit works with. This kit will work with basically the main compressors that are used, you know, in the last 30-40 years. There's a couple that it won't work with, but the main ones it covers pretty well. It actually does come with instructions, and it'll tell you how to use the kit. Actually, the instructions are surprisingly good in this kit. It will also give you torque, like the shaft nut torque, which is important because you don't want to over torque it or anything. And it'll also give you the air gap, which is important for each clutch setting, so that you don't have a gap too big and slip the clutch or overheat it and so forth. And it'll also tell you which tool to use and so forth. And there's a list of you can identify what model your compressor is just by a visual identification. And it even has a quick troubleshooting for actually charging the system, which, you know, anyway. Anyway, the instructions are surprisingly good that come with these kits, you know, for what it is. If you don't know what you're doing, it'll help you ID your compressor real quick and figure out which tool you should be using, because if it's not immediately obvious, there's a couple different, even just for the threaded fronts, there's a couple, you know, different threads. There's the fine thread and the coarse thread and so on. And so I've had this kit a couple years, and the main problem I've had with it is the threads on these bolts. These are really the only ones I use in this kit, because these other ones are less common for what I encounter, but I'm sure the threads are the same quality throughout this. The threads on this kit are not very strong. Internally, the internal threads on these pieces actually seem to hold up. They haven't really been stripped out. They're a little worn from, you know, the metal being ground off of these threads. But the other thing is they don't thread them down far enough. Ideally, they would be threaded down further, because I find by the time I put this in and put this in to start it, it's only engaged a couple threads. And if you over torque it, it'll strip out those first couple threads because they're just not strong enough. And it would be really helpful if it's threaded deeper, so that by the time you engage this and actually hit the shaft, that you had enough threads here engaged to actually give you some strength. But they don't. For reference, let me take this off. For reference, I've cut this one shorter just so I could salvage a few more usable threads up here, because by the time these threads you don't really ever use. And that's my one big beef with these kits. They're just not, well, two big beefs. The threads aren't strong enough, and they don't thread them far enough down the shaft. They do have this stop in here so that you don't ruin the shaft, the nose shaft of your compressor. These thread in, and of course you can set your depth, but you don't want more here, you actually want less. So this is actually takes up too much room, but nothing you can do about that. You do need it in there, because if you don't put it in there, this will start to booger up the threads on your on the nose shaft of your compressor. So surprisingly, these work if you're doing the occasional job. You know, if you have to replace your seal every couple years, like I do, because seals seem to be junk these days, or your compressor shaft is going bad and it's just got a nick or slid around, and you end up instead of replacing the compressor, you just put in a $10 seal every couple years. These work for occasional use. If you're going to use them all the time, it's not going to do the trick. They're just not strong enough. They're not durable enough. The threads aren't great. They look great coming out of the box, but they're just not strong enough. But like I said, I have had this kit for a couple years, and it has worked surprisingly well. Now, the one big advantage I've found, these are just color coded to match the thread. I don't know why they do that exactly, but these screws are actually interchangeable. These are the same thread. So if you booger up one, you can get the other one, and you can get a little bit more life out of your kit, like I did, just by using the one that's not messed up yet. That's about the only thing it has going for it there. It does come in this nice plastic case that is quite durable, and the case has held up surprisingly well. Let's open the new kit, see what they're making now. And this is, of course, I think I got this, I think this actually came off of eBay, but you can find the same thing on Amazon and all the other sites. So yeah, I mean, it looks like basically the same kit. It's probably the same quality. Let me check the threads here. Yeah, I mean, it's the same length. Same thread length, so they haven't really changed that. Well, you can maybe get one or two more threads out of this kit than this one. So that's good. I imagine the metal is probably the same quality, so it's probably not that great. Looks about the same diameter metal and threads and everything, just roughly. So the way this works is you put this in here and then you back this off because the shaft sticks out faster, and then you screw this in and then you tighten this and then so forth. But I mean, it seems like about the same quality. One thing I did notice with this newer kit, it has two different options for the puller. It has these two different thread options, which my other one does not have, so I guess they're including that now. So these newer kits probably do a couple more compressors than just the ones that my old kit does. This one does not come with instructions. That's disappointing because like I said before, I like the if you don't know what you're doing or you want a quick reference so you don't have to look it up, the air gap and the torque spec, they're really nice. So I'll keep that in the new kit. But yeah, these bearings, oh, these are just okay. There we go. These are yeah, these are okay. I don't think these are as good as the ones in the old kit. These actually, well, can you hear that? Now I have actually not used these in this kit. I think I have another different kit that I used them in, but these have never been used, and you can hear they're grinding. They've just been sitting there in the box. They may have gotten metal shavings in from, you know, these things being boogered up, but these are actually really smooth. Yeah. So they may have raised the quality on the bearings. That's good. Yeah, it looks about the same quality. They did put a little bit of grease or oil on that thread, which when you're using these, you should probably almost always oil them so there's not just, you don't have as much heat buildup and friction, because they can get, some of these clutches can get pretty tight, and that's really what boogers these things up. If you get a tight clutch and you really got to crank on it, that seems to be where the problem lies. But yeah, about the same thread on this. And you can see a little bit better on this new kit, the fine thread versus the coarse thread. Do not screw the wrong one into the wrong compressor, or you'll mess it up and then you'll never get it off. If you've ever done this before, you'll be familiar with that. Looks like in the new kit they gave you longer screws for the puller, as opposed to the ones from the old kit that are these short ones. That seems to be an advantage. So it is actually this new kit, what did I say, it's ABN? Still got the sticker on the lid. So this kit's made by ABN Auto Body Now. Seems like this is about the same. Again, there's a few more threads on there than the one in the old kit. However, you don't have as much length on the drive screw, so that it seems like that's about, I know that is a little bit shorter. So you do have some more usable threads here, but this one is longer. So it's slightly different. There's a different wrench size, but that's not really important. It seems like all of the thread sizes on this newer kit are smaller, because like the puller, it's actually a smaller thread size. It's not as beefy. And this is the drive screw for the puller. Interesting. So that's not good. Kind of like I noted on this, I believe that the thread, the actual shaft size, oh, they might be about the same. Actual thread size on these seems to be identical, but the drive screw for the puller is a smaller diameter, so probably not as strong. So that's not great. You can probably still get this style kit, and I don't remember what brand it is. I mean, they're probably the same. They're probably made by the same company even. But like I said, this is a couple years newer. These are the ones you can get now. At the time I'm making this video, I just just got this the other day. You can get slightly more expensive kits. I think they come in a blue box. I don't know which company makes them. I haven't tried out those, but I think they're rough. I think they're roughly the same. They're the same quality metal, but I don't know for sure. If anybody has any feedback on that, just please leave it down in the comments if you've ever used one of the different kits. As far as using these kits go, when you're using them, just if it gets really tight, just be careful and don't, just put a ton of force on these things because they will strip out. That would be my only note on here. But for occasional use and for clutches that aren't seized onto a compressor or something, these two kits do work really good for occasional use. And I think this kit, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $30, and this one was about $30, equivalent for whatever a couple years ago it was. But they're quite affordable for what they are. Even for if you're doing it for a one-time use, let's say you need to replace your nose seal, like on this R4 compressor here. You can get the seal for the full seal kit with the felt washers and the O-rings and the snap ring. I think you can get those for like $10 or $12 online, and they'll ship them to you really quick. And then you get this kit for $30, and it's a lot cheaper than buying a $200 or $300 reman compressor or a $400 or $500 brand new compressor. So from that regard, if you're just trying to milk a little bit of life out of a compressor for a couple more years, or limp it along for a couple more years, then this kit will help you do that in a relatively inexpensive fashion. But if you're using these as a professional, I wouldn't really recommend this. I would recommend getting the proper Miller or Rotunda tools, because they're nice grade steel and they will actually last, and you can put some decent torque on those. However, they are horrifically expensive. If you want to get this from like Miller Tools or something, you would pay probably $30 or $40 for a used, just this unit, for a used one online. If you can find a new one, it's going to be more than that. But I think the last used one I saw was like $30 or $40 plus shipping, because they're good. But unless you're doing it all the time, it's not worth it. So these will do the trick. But like I said, I don't recommend them for professional use. If you're doing this every day, all the time, no, definitely not. If you just have one, even for a one-time job, if you're going to get this a one-time job to milk a compressor a couple more years by replacing the shaft seal, or if you have a clutch that you need to replace that's worn out, or you have an electromagnet that's blown and you need to pull the clutch off to access that and replace it, these kits are the way to go, because they will work short term. So what's left to say about this kit? I don't get paid for sponsorships or anything for this. I'm just doing this to maybe help somebody out if you actually want to get one of these kits, or you're looking at getting one, and you want to know the real quality. I know reviews are hit and miss, and online reviews these days are just, you can't really trust any of them, because most of them are probably paid, but how do you really know? So I figured I'd make a video and just throw this out here, because I have a kit that you can see that's been, I wouldn't say abused, but used a lot. I have used this way more than I ever intended to use it when I got it. Initially, I got it to do like 1 or 2 jobs, like I recommended this kit for, and I ended up using it a lot more than I ever thought I would over the last couple years. And that's why I got a replacement kit, because this will get me another couple years. And for 30 bucks, I'm willing to do that. I don't know how many I'm going to do in the future. So for me, it's not worth investing in, the high-end Miller, Rotunda, whatever name brand tools. Snap-on probably makes a kit. I don't know. I don't get paid for any of this stuff. I'm just trying to show you guys what's out there, and what you're going to get when you get this kit. So hopefully this helps at least one person, and I always appreciate likes, comments, questions. Leave them down there in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. So I was at the store the other day, and I found something I've been looking for a really long time. And no, it's not this new t-shirt. Wait for it. I found Dr. Pepper ice cream. I've heard this stuff has been out and I've been waiting for it. And I've been looking every time I go to any store that sells this brand of ice cream, which I don't endorse. They're the only ones that make it, you know. So we're gonna test this live on camera, first time, because I just happen to have tasting equipment. There it is, Dr. Pepper. I don't know what signifies the float part of it, but Dr. Pepper ice cream. It's a nice hot day too, so. Oh yeah, it's got swirls of looks like Dr. Pepper and vanilla. I guess that's what makes the float. Well, that's good stuff. Like I've often said before, I don't endorse Dr. Pepper, but I like it because it's good. Yeah, this stuff is hard to find. If you can find it, I recommend it. It's delicious. I'll get this back inside before it melts. So I'm guessing, since this says Dr. Pepper float on it, it's made to be eaten as a float. Well, let's see how that works. It's really hot out here. I've never had a Dr. Pepper float of any kind before, but Dr. Pepper ice cream with Dr. Pepper, how can you go wrong? Oh yeah, look at that. That's some good stuff. Right amount of bubbles for a float. Yep. Perfect for a hot day. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Oh, I'm gonna finish eating this and let you get on with your life, so have fun.